Oh, goody.
Alright, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again. And today we are back with another Mercenaries video. This is going to be another one of our early leveling priority guides. We're going to be taking a look at the protectors this time. And yeah, we got 5 protectors for this drop, so same number that we had of fighters. So we're going to dive right into it. Before we do, if you enjoy this type of content, do remember to like and subscribe. It does a ton to help out the channel and keeps the Mercenaries videos coming. So, starting off with Baine Bloodhoof, son of Karen. I think Baine is actually an incredibly strong unit, and he has a ton of potential. Unfortunately, there are some bugs with him right now I do want to let you know about. So, apparently, Chain Heal is bugging and not working as intended. It's just, I heard it's healing equal to his heal power instead of that base 20, which is really, really bad. So do watch out for that if you're trying to use it, but once it gets fixed, that should be a pretty good skill. But in terms of what we want to level for Baine, so he's a pretty good set of skills here. One thing that I think is really weird, and I've intentionally not leveled it up to kind of show it off here, is Earth Mother's Fury. So this is an ability, it just progresses in damage as you level it up. But for the last cooldown for this skill, or the last upgrade for the skill, it adds a cooldown. So it goes from 1 cooldown, 20 damage with the death blow, to 2 cooldown, 25 damage with the death blow. And I think this is really weird because there's actually an argument for not upgrading this character, because if you want to use him as a lead, it's better to have the AoE right away. So I'm actually not upgrading this one all the way right away because I want to test him with the 1 cooldown and see how it works. This really doesn't happen too often, so I'm kind of curious, but if you're going to be leveling up Earth Mother's Fury, which I think you should because it's a good ability, it might be worth stopping at 4 just to try this out, see if it's good with him as a lead. Unfortunately, you won't be able to max the character without leveling this, so you'll probably have to do it eventually. But I think it's definitely, while we're in the early testing stages, don't put this to 5 right away, unless you're okay with it being 2 cooldown over 1. So I did want to mention that. But so in terms of his abilities, we have the Mulgore Might here. The big thing about this one, I believe, is you're just gaining more health from the nature combo, which is obviously a good thing, but depending on how you're going to use this unit, if you're not in a nature focused build, you can probably wait to level this one up. I can't remember if the healing power comes in the upgrades. I think it might, in which case if you're trying to use him in a healing centric build, you're probably trying to use him in nature anyway. So if that's the kind of build you're going for, you probably will want to level up this ability, as that could be very strong in nature. But if you're trying to use him on his own, then maybe you can wait on that one. Chain Heal, I'd probably wait right now because of the bug. It sounds like it's just not very useful until they fix this bug, so I wouldn't go spend your early coins on it if you want to use him right away. And so that just means Earth Mother's Fury, I think, is the way to go. Level this skill up. Like I said, I'd probably leave it at 4 just to do some testing to see how it is at 1 cooldown. I think only gaining 5 more damage for 1 cooldown, it's not the greatest trade-off in the world, so I'm definitely going to be experimenting with it at 1 cooldown. We're going to see how it works, and then maybe I will upgrade his last one to max him. And then his items here, here's some pretty interesting items. We have Chieftain's Fury, Herbal Ancestry, and the Totemic Mastery. I think there might be something to this totem, but I haven't tested it enough yet, so I'm not entirely sure. But the fact that this totem basically blocks damage definitely gives it some potential. But personally, I think this is his best item. Not only does it give him an additional +4 or +7 health, it also gives him +4 healing power. This is the first time we've had healing power available on a character where you don't have to set it up like Chi-Ji. And I think that is going to be very, very powerful. So generally, what I'd recommend for him, if you're going nature, you probably want to get skill 1 up a little bit. Anything else, including nature, you definitely want to focus on getting Earth Mother's Fury to 4. And I personally think this is his best equipment, so this is the one I would focus on first. So yeah, you want to go for these 3 first. Once this gets fixed, this probably should be a priority as well, as it's huge healing. But for the time being, while it's bugged, I'd probably put my coins elsewhere. So, and his other items, both of these are pretty decent. I don't really like adding another cooldown, but it does give you a bunch more healing. But again, the bug kind of makes that not matter as much. So I'd probably focus on the totem and then this one last. So that is it for Baine. Moving on to Brann here. Brann's a pretty interesting unit. The big thing about Brann is I think his best ability is his skill 3. But I believe with his skill 3, upgrading it, the only thing you're actually upgrading is the amount of health you're restoring. So while it's nice to restore a bit of extra health, if you're going to be primarily using it for the repeat effect, then I wouldn't worry about upgrading it a ton unless you really feel like you need the health, because the powerful part of the effect I believe is available from level 1. Then looking at his other abilities here, I think it depends on how you're going to be using Brann, but both of his abilities do give some resistance. This one gives it to all your characters, while as Summit Campfire only grants it to Brann, but also has the bonus of making your characters crit enemies who have already acted, which is pretty cool. I think it depends how you're trying to use him, but if you want a more offensive Brann, do Trusty Whip first, get that damage all the way up. And if you want a more defensive Brann or combo-y Brann, I think Summit Campfire is the way to go. I think this one does get a bit more benefit because of the resistance you're gaining. So if you want to prioritize one to get to 5, I would do Summit Campfire first, as you can get this one to level 3. It's still dealing 10 damage, so it's really not that bad. So yeah, that is kind of the order. And then if you really think you need the extra healing and stuff, you can prioritize this one, but I don't think it should be your biggest priority because, like I said, the second part is the stronger part of the ability. Now, one interesting thing about Brann, and I do not know if this is intended or not, his third item here, when it is locked, it says level 1. However, currently, I don't know if this is a bug or an intentional thing. If you go, and this is also his heroic item from clearing a heroic, or the specific heroic for him, but if you actually go and clear his heroic right now, this auto unlocks at level 4. So you can actually get this one all the way leveled up for free just by doing his heroic unlock. So you don't even have to worry about leveling it, which is really, really nice. Saves us some coins. Looking at his other two abilities, it really depends. This one, I think, is just not very good right now because fire is not a prominent force in the meta at all. There used to be a fire comp in PvP. Haven't seen it in a while because of Trigor. So I really would probably put this at like the last of your list because it just, fire resistance isn't very useful right now. However, Adventurer's Pack here, this one definitely can be more useful. Speeds up Brann, which is definitely not a bad thing. But the bigger part is it changes the resistance from Frost to Shadow. Now, Frost and Shadow, I think, are going to be two of the most prominent, two of the most dominant kind of spell school types we have in the game. So I think this is the way you want to go with his first leveling for the item, as you're going to run into a lot more Shadow units in PvP than Fire units. So that's the item I would focus on. So again, probably want to focus on getting Summit Campfire up, get this up to at least level 3, and then you can kind of focus on this one afterwards if you feel like you need the healing. And then if you're seeing a lot of Shadow, or you just want Brann to be a little bit faster, you can focus on Adventurer's Pack, and you can save the relic for the last one, and get this free while you can. It may be intentional, we don't know, but I don't think it is, because when it was locked, it said level 1. So if you want to save yourself like 400 coins, go get that out of the way before they fix it. Moving on to our first and only legendary of the bunch, Maiev. So I'm really excited about Maiev. Unfortunately, Baine isn't the only character that's bugged. There are quite a lot of bugs right now, and sadly, one of her coolest abilities, Imprison, is currently bugged in PvP. Now, it seems to work fine in PvE, and it actually works fine in PvP if you use it on your own mercenaries, but both myself and some other players have noticed using it on an opponent, is not giving the proper cooldown equal to their number of benched mercs, which is really unfortunate because this is a really, really cool and powerful skill. So do be aware of that. I am hoping we will get a bug fix patch soon in the next update. Usually probably a smaller one since we just got a big content update, but really hoping we can get some bug fixes because there are a lot of very weird bugs with these new mercenaries. So what do we want to prioritize for Maiev? For her, I think the biggest thing with Maiev is you really just want to get single-minded pursuit up all the way, as the attack you gain from it is really, really strong. Obviously, you lose that attack if you switch targets, but the cool thing about this ability is if you lose that attack, you still gain another 10 before you hit for damage. So it's almost like, as long as you're attacking with skill 1, you're always hitting for 19 base damage. And that's a ton of damage. And especially if you focus the same target over and over, this gets really, really crazy really fast. So I think her skill 1 is just really, really good, and you want to get all the attack you can out of it. So I would definitely prioritize this one. This one here, I believe this one, all that it does is restore more health. So while the health is definitely nice, especially if you're getting like a death blow, because that usually means you're a little bit further into the game, I don't think you really need to prioritize this one in terms of leveling, because I believe it still keeps the second part where you gain the roll of the enemy and the attack. It's just the death blow healing that gets changed. So this one, honestly, you could even save it for last. Again, if you feel like you need the healing, maybe just put it up to level 3, but I wouldn't worry about getting it to level 5 as soon as possible. And then in prison, once this gets fixed, I would say this is going to be a high priority one. Kind of like the other one, get to at least level 3. I think that'll get you 8 damage, which you start seeing that kind of fall off after level 3, where it's not giving you quite as much damage. It's still worth upgrading, but getting it to level 3 will at least make it kind of PvP playable, even if you don't have it maxed. But unfortunately, it's not working as intended in PvP right now, so do be aware of that. And then the items. So if you listen to the recent podcast episode, I was really high on this item, but unfortunately, it is only attacks that this is preventing and not all damage. And I definitely think I missed that the first time reading over it, as I've tried it out a little bit. I still have to play test it more, but it hasn't been quite as insane as I initially thought it would be. So do be aware of that. It's not a bad equipment. I just don't think it's necessarily the number one equipment that you have to kind of prioritize. And then I think this one actually, you actually unlock maxed. There are a few characters that do start with just one maxed out ability this time around, which is really nice. That saves us some coins for grinding up all our characters. So never unhappy to see that. So I believe, but even if it wasn't, I wouldn't focus this one because I just think it's her weakest ability by quite a bit. And then this is actually what I think is her best item. So I tested the other one out, so you don't have to. I think Charge Glaive is the way you want to go for the item. The fact that you can get, I believe, +5 attack, making this +15 attack, so she's always hitting for 24. That's 48 if you're critting. That's a ton. And with how I've seen Maiev play in PvP, in the little bit that I have seen of her, I think this is 100% the way to go. Maybe you focus this one if you're going for a more defensive build, if the meta is very attacking heavy, but I think right now, I really like just getting her as much damage as possible. So definitely do skill 1, then skills 3 and item 1 should be your priority for her. But don't forget, there is currently a bug with skill 3. Moving on to our first Naga of the bunch, Phantom Lord Karathress. This one is one of our Nagas that cares about summoning some minions. They also got some Frost combo, got a Frost School, Nature School. Really like the Nagas. Very interesting designs here. So for him, I think most of the time, if you are using a character with summons, the summon ability is usually very worth upgrading because they just gain a lot out of those stats. It's not like the other ones where from level 3 to 4 to 5, you're gaining like 1 or 2 damage. The summons gain a lot of stats, and the Frost combo here enables another one. So I do think you do want to prioritize this one unless you're not planning to attack with this as much. But given that the other two abilities have 1 cooldown each, I think you are going to be attacking at least a little bit with this guy. So I do recommend leveling this one up for sure. Then Cataclysmic Bolt. 20 damage is pretty decent, and it has that kind of Valera effect, so it always targets the lowest health. I think this is good, but I'm not sure if you really need to like prioritize maxing it all the way. This is probably one I would go to at least level 3 just so you have it as an option. And then if you really like it, you can keep leveling it. Or if you want to focus on another ability, you can do that instead. And then Blessing of the Tides. So gaining attack seems pretty good. If you're running a Naga comp, I think this is like a no-brainer to focus on. The second part of the text, I'm not sure how relevant that's going to be, where it's if he is less than 40 health, you gain 10 instead of 5. Pretty powerful, but that requires you to be pretty low on health. So a little bit of a trade-off there. But I think this is another one where the plus attack is worth more than like +1 attack, I think is worth more than +1 damage because your attack is sticking around, whereas the damage is on a per turn basis. So if you're using him in an attacking focus comp, and you probably are with the Naga summons and stuff, then I would definitely recommend focusing on this one. Now, looking at the items here, I think the best item, looking at all of these, I think it's this one. So Blessing of the Tides affects all your Nagas and summon minions, but has +2 cooldown. So you'd probably want to have this as kind of like a late game finisher in a Naga build if you're running this item. But if you are, giving a bunch of attack to your Nagas really isn't that bad of a thing. Even the ones that can't directly attack, at the very least, you might be able to get some free residual damage in. So I really like that equipment. It's probably the one I would prioritize. I think this one's pretty closely tied to it, though. This one's pretty strong. Again, this is going to be like kind of for different builds, though. So if you are running this as a lead, this is probably much better of an equipment if you're going to have him as a lead merc, as you are going to be summoning the Phantom Guards. So having a nice way to heal up the dude that is summoning them is pretty decent. I like it. And then I think Hull Breaker here really is the weakest equipment. I mean, the damage to adjacent enemies is not bad at all, but I think the big part that is a big downside is the cooldown. Maybe you can get away with it for a bench build, but 2 cooldown is a lot. A lot happens in the first 2 turns of Mercenaries if you're using him as an open. So maybe in a bench build, but if you're leading with him, I don't think I'd really recommend this one. So yeah, definitely focus on that first skill. Then I'd probably try and get each of these to level 3, maybe get this one to 5 before this one, and then kind of depending on your build, you can go with the healing from when his summon attacks, or you can go with buffing up all your other Naga. And that brings us to our last protector here, Tide Mistress Athissa. So I think this is also one that might start with its level 4 item. I'm not sure, though. I'm not 100% positive on that one. It's hard to keep track of all these new mercenaries when you're leveling them all, but looking at their abilities here, honestly, all their abilities are good in my opinion. Like, they really don't have a bad skill. So I think a pretty decent way to go for this one is just get your main 3 skills to level 3. Because like I said before, that's when the drop-off kind of starts to happen for like big damage increases. And then depending on what you are using it in, you can kind of prioritize from there. So if you're using it in a nature-focused build, I mean, even though this isn't a nature ability, 5 nature weakness is a ton. And the fact that you're getting damage on top of it probably would put this one at a pretty high priority. This one also pretty interesting. I like it, but you're probably fine with it dealing 8 instead of 10, so you can get it to 3 and then upgrade it as you feel is necessary. And then Captive Tides, if you're running a Naga build, you should focus this. I think this is a very clear kind of bench unit type of ability, but it has huge potential, going up by 7 damage for each other Naga you control when it's maxed out, and having 20 base damage. So I think this one's really strong, especially if you're running in a Naga build. I would recommend prioritizing it. Looking at the abilities on this character, we do have the kind of Mukla's big brother Naga, which I think is actually pretty good. I haven't done their task chain yet, so I haven't unlocked this one. Then we have Riptide dealing more damage from 10 to 15, and Harpsichord, after this Merc takes damage, refresh 1 on Captive Tides. So this one you could probably get away with if you want to run this as a lead to get Captive Tides ability kind of online faster. 3 cooldowns a lot, but if you're taking 1 cooldown off of that every time this is taking a hit, that can actually speed it up quite a bit. But this is one of those Mercs that it's going to be build dependent, but none of their items are bad. I think all 3 items here are good, but in terms of priority, you're going to want to focus on whatever one you like the most, you think is best for your build, and just get it to 4 rather than spreading it out, because you just want the most effective item on the character that you're going to be using. I really like the Naga summon with Taunt, actually. I think that is actually pretty good. I mean, we've seen Mukla's big brother be very good, and this is basically the same stat line with Taunt, but it gives you a Naga bonus instead, so you're already buffing up your Captive Tides and your other Naga synergies. So if you want something a little bit more defensive, focus on Warlord Presh. If you want something a little bit more offensive, you could go with the Clutching Hatred to make this deal 15. I mean, that might even be pretty solid in a nature-focused build. So I could see that working out. And then if you're going all in on the Nagas, it's definitely between Warlord and Harpsichord. Harpsichord if you really want to be getting this online as quick as possible, and Warlord if you want to be a little bit more defensive. So definitely get the 3 main abilities here to level 3. Then I'd probably focus on Wave Crush and Captive Tide, and then pick between probably Harpsichord or Warlord, but the Clutching Hatred is not a bad option either. So that is going to be it for our Protector level up priority guide. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below about these characters and their abilities. If you have any plans of what you think you might want to use them in. I know I'm very excited to try out these Nagas and Maiev specifically, as well as Baine when he gets a little bit more bug fixed. But I really am curious about, in specific with Baine, the difference between skill 4 or level 4 and level 5 here. So I'm 100% going to be testing that quite a bit before I commit to leveling it up to level 5, and I would recommend you do the same. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, do remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.